David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today I have for you a brand new version of a pen I've previously reviewed, but I feel this new color is pretty sharp. The pen is from Leonardo, and it is the latest release in their Momento Magico line, and that would be the Emerald. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Momento Magico Emerald. There is a significant change between this version and previous ones. I'll talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about this pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to the good folks at Leonardo for providing this pen for review. Now, one of my other interests is magic. In the past, with each Momento Magico review, I've included a trick. I'll show you another one during this review, but it will need to wait until the writing sample is a bit of an up-close trick, more appropriate for that camera angle. So stay tuned to check that out. The pen arrives in this box. I like this outer sleeve. There's some slots in it. Basically, you see the inner black box through the cutout. Then inside we have a standard Leonardo box. Inside we have a use and care guide. And then we also have the pen. This is the Leonardo Momento Magico in the brand new Emerald resin. The Momento Magico is a few millimeters longer than the Momento Zero model. The model I have here has gold trim. This pen is also available in basically either rhodium or gold trim. The nib color will match the trim as well. While I typically prefer rhodium trim over gold, that's just a personal preference, I feel that the gold matches well with this emerald blue-green resin. This Italian resin has a lot of variance and personality to it. There are portions like this, which has swaths of pearlescence. I will say that in these pictures, the material looks a little bit more blue. In person, it's more emerald green. Then there are portions of the resin which have a different patterning and depth. I almost feel like the patterning on the cap on this pen looks like the surface of the moon. I like pens which provide a variety of looks to this one. With the way the light interacts with the pearlescence, it provides a different look in just about every angle you view the pen. Let's take a look at the top of the cap. As with most Leonardo models, it comes to a rounded cone tip. Then we have the clip. I feel it's size appropriate for this pen, and I've always thought that wheeled clips look cool. The cap angles up a few millimeters until you reach the band. I like that the design on the box mirrors the band. That's just a nice touch. I also like that through the slots in the band, you could actually see the underlying material. It just adds another interesting visual element to this pen. Just above the band, it is engraved with Leonardo as well as the number of this pen. The Magico Emerald is not a limited edition, but Leonardo numbers the majority of their pens. The end of the cap stair steps down to a medium-sized step down to the barrel, which is where we find the majority of change between this pen and previous Momento Magico models. Here it is compared to a previous model, and you can see here that on the older model, the ink window can be slightly visible while the pen is capped, but on the Emerald, it is not. That's because, as you can see here, the ink window on this latest version is about half the size as it was, as well as it having rings on either side of it, as opposed to a straight transition from the window to the barrel. While I liked being able to get a sliver of look at the ink window when the pen was capped, overall I care for the size and design of this new ink window a little bit more. It's not a huge change, but I like it. The barrel is slightly bulbous. What I mean by that is that it angles up ever so slightly before tapering down toward the end of the barrel. At the end of the barrel, there is a ring signifying the beginning of a piston knob, and then on the end of that knob, it comes to a rounded cone point, just like the one on the top of the cap. The cap twists off in a single rotation, and underneath we have a number 6 stainless steel nib. Like I mentioned before, the color of the nib will match that of the trim. The nib is available in extra fine, fine, medium, broad, and a 1.1 stub. Some retailers offer the option to equip this pen with a 14-karat gold nib or even one of Leonardo's flex nibs, which they call their elastic nib, which are really nice. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section begins with a flare. The Magico uses a more traditional section rather than the stair-step section you see on the Momento Zero. It's a bit on the short side and quickly transitions into the threads, the ink window, and then the remainder of the barrel. Even though this section is rather short, I don't find my grip spilling over to the threads that much. It does, just slightly, but I don't find the resin threads to be sharp or uncomfortable. So if your grip should catch more of them, I wouldn't find that to be an issue. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. The cap does post. It does post securely, and the cap isn't overly heavy, so I don't feel it backweights the pen or throws off the balance. So if you like to post your cap, this pen would work well for you. Since I have previously mentioned the piston knob and the ink window, you probably put 2 and 2 together and correctly determine that this is a piston filler. I do find the piston mechanism to be smooth, and the pen holds a decent amount of ink. You can actually also purchase a separate metal tool which could be used to disassemble this pen. While the tool works great, it's nice to be able to remove the piston for a thorough cleaning when required. I will admit the tool is a bit pricey. It's like $35, I believe. In regard to the price for the pen, I've seen some variation between retailers. I've seen it as low as $170 and as high as $220. So you might want to shop around a bit if you want to get the best bargain. But I feel that that range is appropriate for what you receive with this pen. Leonardo makes some great pens. I love this emerald resin. I care for the overall design of the Magico, and I like the changes that they implemented for the ink window. And on top of that, as you'll see in the writing sample, it performs great on paper as well. Okay, now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and I'll show you a little magic trick and the writing sample. Okay, I thought I'd show you guys a magic trick that I promised. What I have here are 2 coins. I have a 50-cent piece and a Mexican centavo. Normally I would do this trick for someone with their assistance, but I'll do it here for you just alone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put both of these coins in my hand. And so what do I have in my hand? Well, what I have is I have a Susan B. Anthony and the 50-cent piece. And that's because the Mexican coin is gone over here. I tell you what, let's go ahead and try that again. What I have is I have that 50-cent piece and that Mexican centavo. And so what I'm going to do is go ahead and put everything in my hand. And so what do I have in my hand right now? All sorts of coins. And that's because the Mexican coin is right over here. So here we go with some size comparisons for the Leonardo Momento Magico in Emerald. Here it is with the previous version of the Momento Magico. You can see again here the ink window that is visible here. Then here it is with a Fiore Grande model from Leonardo. And then also, just because it looks somewhat similar, this is my Figboot on pens model, which is a Momento Zero model. You know what? Also, something I wanted to briefly show you is that there's different cap styles, end of the cap for Leonardo, and there's kind of 3 different styles. There is, you can see this has the stair-step style, and then on the Figboot on pens, it is straight. And then for this Fiore Grande, you can see it's angled down slightly. So those are the 3 different end cap designs for Leonardo. In regard to 3 other pens, here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point and a Mont Blanc 146. And then finally, here it is with a Sailor Conrecchi, which is basically one of their Pro Gear models. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the Momento Zero. You can see it's slightly larger than that. Here it is with the Sailor Conrecchi, which is the Pro Gear. And here it is with the Fiore Grande. Here we go with the writing sample for the Leonardo Momento Magico, and this is the Emerald. This is a medium stainless steel nib, and I felt appropriately enough the ink should be Leonardo Smeraldo, which means emerald in Italian. This is what the ink looks like. It's one of my favorite inks over this last year. Same with the Stilo in Stile, which is the Roman bronze oxidation. I love that one as well. And this is what it looks like in comparison to the J. Herbin Emerald de Chivor. This is what the Leonardo bottles look like. They have a nice amount of ink in them, and the neck is rather wide, so you can get just about any pen in there. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I find this medium nib to be fairly smooth. It has just a hint of feedback to it. You're not getting a lot of line variation out of there. The ink flow on here I find to be decent. And in regard to some reverse writing, it is a little scratchy, but lays down an extra fine line. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed keeps up just fine. So there we have the Leonardo Momento Magico in Emerald. Let me give you a little closer look at that material again. And I like how it really varies, and the chatoyance varies when the light hits it differently. It's kind of cool. Okay, until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.